Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So happy to be here. This is a skill sharing conversation on bringing Khan to the library. So we have Marissa Lieberman, Head of Reference Services for Cranford Public Library, Matt Latham, also known as Mario, Director of Ramsey Free Public Library, and Lizzie Latham, Head of Children's Services at Lake Hiawatha Branch of Parsippany Public Library, who's also Luigi right now. And Marissa is Bob's Burgers, and I'm Hello Kitty. And we're just happy to be here. So yeah, Matt, Lizzie, Marissa, do you want to go ahead and get started?
Sure. Anybody, Marissa, you want to go for it?
Sure. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Marissa Lieberman. I'm so excited to be here. I've been a fan of anime and manga since I was 12 years old, and it's so amazing to be able to combine a passion of mine with my professional work. I planned my con, which I call Toshokan, which is a play on words for the Japanese word for libraries, since 2010 at 3 different libraries across 2 states, in different job titles with varying budgets, with varying levels of administrative support. And I really believe that it is such a fun and worthwhile event that can be scaled up and down depending on your library. So for us, we usually start thinking about our con about a year in advance. And I've been fortunate at the last 2 libraries I worked with to be able to work with a committee of staff members. And I really try to invite people, again, from different job titles in different departments. So it's a collaborative event. And one thing that we always start off with is our mascot contest. So we usually started off about 8 months prior. We advertise that it's open to kids and teens in the community. This was the one, I'll hold it up, that won this year. Really talented young woman who did this digitally. And we usually do some sort of prize. This year, we worked with our downtown Cranford, and they put together a gift basket for a bubble tea and an Annie Ramen basket. When I was at East Orange, they had a really big arts council that was active, and they used to meet every Saturday in our library, and I had a relationship with them. So one year they actually inducted the young teen who won, and her family came for a ceremony as a teen honorary member, and they gave her a certificate, and we had some funding to give her a prize. So it's a really great way to kick off. A lot of the work goes into the programming itself. So we usually have about 12 to 15 programs throughout the day, which includes active programs and passive programs. So things like badge making, which we tried out this year, which was really fun, crafts for teens and kids, workshops like candy sushi, which was really, really popular. We brought out our Mario go-kart circuit live racers, which I highly recommend if you have the money to invest. And they made little obstacle courses, which is a lot of fun. Previous library, we did a cosplay runway program where we had teams and boxes of duct tape and paper, and they got to dress someone up, and we had little trophies for winners. We've done panels with voice actors and industry professionals, concerts. Cranford's really big on music, so we did a samurai sword performance. We worked with a Marvel film producer who did a jazz concert who's local to New Jersey. Artists, of course, and I'm always mindful that there's great diversity in the comics and anime industry, so I want to make sure that that's reflected in the people that I'm hiring to come in and be a part of this event. That's something that's really important to us as well. We always start with an opening ceremony. I usually get a cute ribbon on Etsy and kind of block off the entrance. We invite a board member or the mayor to come in and say a few words, and we open it. And we always end with a costume contest, which is so much fun. We worked with our really great MC the last couple of years who gets people really, really excited. We always do a booklet, and I think Stephanie can probably send this out like we did in our previous panel. A colleague of mine made this in Canva. Something new we tried this year were room raffles. So we had themed baskets to encourage people to go to the different programs and gave them a raffle ticket and pulled it each time. In the past, I've done big raffles at the end with tickets. We were fortunate to have an artist alley and vendor section. Again, you know your library if that's something that you can have. Here's an example of our schedule. So just like if you were going to NJLA, we always have different programs going on at different times throughout the day. We've done a Saturday from 10 to 4. Again, knowing your library and your space and your time, that could change. I always do a little graphic like this. It kind of works for me. A colleague of mine did a little map And then we do a description and we have our guests on the back. For this past event, we really focused on community, and I was fortunate to work in a community that was excited about our event. Our downtown does these amazing strolls. Like they did a Taylor Swift one where you can buy a little bag and it's got goodies inside and go to the different shops. So we were able to coordinate with them to do a ToshoCon experience bag. We partnered with our local movie theater to show Suzumi. So we were able to work with them on that. And then people got gift cards to our ramen place and bubble tea. So it was really cool to partner with them on that aspect. Library cons are really unique because unlike the larger conventions, which can be very crowded, very expensive, this is something that's planned for the community with the community in mind and can be planned with the community itself. Having your teen volunteers run a program or be a volunteer for a special voice actress to say, hey, this is my library. Do you want me to show you where the bathrooms are? Just anything like that to get them really excited. And I firmly believe that library cons do fit within your mission and vision. So if you're trying to pitch this to your director, I know we have a director here who's excited about it, but if you're not a director, I do like an old-fashioned proposal, and I talk about the benefits of fandom and all of that. And I quote back our strategic plan. How does this fit within it? How does this fit within our mission to bring people into the library? And if you can get your coworkers excited, each event has always looked different depending on who I've partnered with. Oh, thank you for showing that. So this year, we had a staff member who works at circulation. He's in library school. And after our first meeting last year, he pulled me aside and he said, I have a collection of like 200 old 80s horror videotapes, and I want to do a replica horror video store. Does that fit with what you're trying to do? And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Why would you keep that a secret? So again, like you never know if you invite people to be a part of it and get excited, what differences they're going to bring to the event. And again, looking at your space, I've done it where I've only had access to the basement. I've done it where I had only access to a couple of meeting rooms. At Cranford, we have a nice partnership with our community center. So I actually have a whole like mini conference center to work with. I've done it. I started doing library cons when I was a page. I wasn't paid for the time I was doing it. I had no budget, no support. I worked with the teens and my family and friends to come in and do programs all the way up to having a budget. So again, there's definitely a place for everyone who's interested to do them, and just reaching out to everyone here as a resource and sharing ideas. Like I'd love to hear from all of you about your ideas, and I'm always happy to share my contacts.
All right.
I was going to share one more thing too. I have all the stuff brought up, so in case we want to see anything, I was going to show your flyer too, because it's cool. Let's see.
Thank you.
There we go.
We were really fortunate that one of the Yu-Gi-Oh actors lives in our town. So again, like you never know who is in your town, and once you start advertising it, people are going to come to you, and the more you do it, the more contacts that you will have.
Cool.
Yeah. What do you think, hon? You want to go or should I?
Go for it.
Okay, well, I can kind of jump to the other end of the spectrum. I've now done a handful of cons at a couple of libraries. Matt and my first con was in 2017 at Leonia. But within the last couple of years, I've moved and I've got no space and next to no money, and yet we're still plowing forward with this and managing to make it happen. A lot of what Marissa said is translatable, but other things, you know, maybe need to be scaled back a little bit. I have no outdoor space, which is problematic, but basically, if you prepare your community well in advance, taking up every available inch of your library is possible. So a couple of weeks before the convention, I basically plaster my library, all of our quiet study areas, all of our everything with little signs that say, we're so appreciative for your patience. We're having this big event on such and such a date. We cannot guarantee a quiet working environment. And so it works both as advertising because people go, oh, well, wow, giant event, maybe this is something I'm into. Or if it's very much not, then they are aware that maybe that is not a day they want to try and come and study quietly. And we really do. Last year I took over the entire building. So my branch is 3 levels. It's like a basement level, a main level, and a mezzanine. So generally for any big event, this translates to any big event that I run. I like to do things that are running the entire time, and then some like anchor pinpointed tailored events that happen at specific times. So the mezzanine was our game room, and we had video games and board games and things going on the entire time. So if whatever the main event was happening was not your cup of tea, there was still something going on for you to do. We can talk more about this later, but I had intended to have a Ghostbusters car outside in my parking lot in my only available outdoor space. That fell through. Like I said, we can circle back around to that. The main level, we had our registration. We had staffers set up to help direct people. And in the lower level, our artist alley was in my children's room. And our biggest programming room was where we had those events that we cycled through. So cosplay contest, we had the 501st Legion come. We were, well, actually the cosplay contest turned into trivia. Need to be able to sort of switch gears quickly when things don't go to plan. And just, again, being properly staffed is always key, regardless of how big or small your event is. Of course, I don't have all of my materials because I grabbed them out of the car hurriedly this morning. Our 3-year-old was freaking out. But we have, oh, look at that. Yeah, I was going to hold up the map, but this was done in Canva. My other children's librarian is amazing. She set it all up with the layout of things. Times are very important. And then signage. So anything that was happening in the mezzanine was coded like blue on my signs. Anything that was happening in the meeting room was coded green on my signs, and anything that was happening on the main floor was yellow. So if it was something, people could tell at a glance where it was supposed to happen. At least that was my hope with the color coding. Cons are for everyone, as Marissa said, literally everyone. If cost is a factor, there are so many things you can do that are low cost or completely free. A cosplay contest just relies on your patrons to know that they need to come in costume. Photo booths can be put together for really inexpensive, and it's another one of those ongoing things, can happen all day long. So if someone is unable to or uninterested in going to whatever's happening scheduled at that time, something else they can do. A lot of the crafts we already do, especially as youth people, translate really well into comic or anime or manga crafts. Relying on student artwork can be amazing. I didn't actually get to have them at my library because they were busy, but the Kubert School is right here in Morris County. They went to MaxCon, but not mine. But again, student artists are willing to come and show off and share. I have a 5th grader who is actually an amazing manga artist in Lake Hiawatha. So she sat in the hallway and she just sketched for like 2 hours. She loved the experience, and you know, she got to be a part of something, but it wasn't like I was laying out a ton of money to have her come and sketch. The 501st Legion, if you're unfamiliar, is a group of Star Wars villains. I don't remember the name of the hero side of that. Who does like?
Is it Rebel Alliance?
That doesn't sound right. Anyway,
they're not as well organized, which is kind of funny. That the rebels aren't as well organized.
than the Empire. Actually, no, that makes a lot of sense. They're less well organized than the Empire. But if you catch them early enough, they are a group that comes to these sort of events for free, and they have all of these professional grade costumes, and will interact with your patrons and do photos and meet and greets. And so I had a couple of snowtroopers just wandering around the library for a while after the meet and greet. And again, I paid them in pretzels, basically, snacks and water. And a lot of this is stuff that can be reused. So not only is cost a factor, if you're concerned about sustainability, there's a lot of stuff that I use for my Star Wars Day that I also use for my Comic-Con. making friends is great. Matt and I just exchanged Halloween decorations in the driveway this morning for our respective Halloween parties at our libraries. And so, we're happy to make friends. We'll share. We hope you'll share. And so regardless of your size and budget, I want to stress that you can make this happen if you want to. So that's those are my highlights.
Okay, awesome. I'm not sure, what to say after that, actually. Marissa's and Lizzie have covered so much ground here. I'll just, quick tag along on that, yeah, you can do this in, various settings. Like Lizzie said, we had done Comic-Cons together at Leonia. I now do them at the Ramsey Public Library. My building is like an octagon. So I will take up like every piece of my building essentially as well. And I'll sometimes do outside things too. So this is a great one for, and it depends. If you have staff who are able to work, I like to do different stations all around the building. So this is a great one for volunteers, actually. I have teen volunteers that help. They love participating in this. My friends group, they like to help volunteer. I've had board members volunteer. I will also generally do a lot of things that was talked about, but I'll always do a costume contest for kids because it's great. Everyone loves it. You get the families involved. It doesn't really cost that much, prizes and such. But I will also try to get some stakeholders to be the judges. So the one year I had the mayor as one of the judges. I had, I did, and I worked with the school. So I had a media specialist, the mayor, and then like one of the 501st Legion members as our 3 judges. And I did have a Star Trek picture in the room. And so I think the guys, they took a picture, they were stormtroopers of like putting their finger up Captain Picard's nose, and did not appreciate that. But it was just fun that way. So, but yeah, some of those things that were talked about, I'd love having both the passive things and sort of the scheduled things. We'll do, the crafts around the room, the photo booth, video game room is really popular. And so that's one like you can build over the couple of years. Like I've spent a couple of years building equipment, like getting the gaming systems, getting the TVs, and you can get some of these things for not too much money, but it may take some time to build. But once you have it, like you can do regular video game sessions all the time too. So it won't just work for just your con. You can reuse these things, like Lizzie and Marissa were saying, for other purposes. So we'll always have a big video game room and tabletop gaming. We just kind of created a Dungeons Dragons like section with gaming books and all kinds of stuff. So we're working on that too. I always have badges for everyone, so they get to like, take something home that looks kind of like, this is not our actual badge, but staff badge. So they get something to take home. Everybody gets something. 501st Legion is great. Sometimes I've done panel discussions too, and have those in one room. We've done like intro to drawing manga, or intro to creating your own costumes for going to Comic-Con, those kinds of things. I think for me, one of the hardest things is, I like having badges and have something, exactly, like have things for people to take home, library branded things too. It's got, to have the con, but it also have like that it's the Ramsey Library Con or whatever you've called it, so it's advertising for you as well. I'll try to work with, we did have a comic book shop in town and they did participate in our first one, but they have since closed, unfortunately. But it may depend on your home library's rules for like how you want them to participate. I was able to have them like actually sell things at the event and participate and give them that space. And we didn't pay anything to them, but they were able to sell. But you'd need to check obviously with your home library's rules for what would work for you. But I love trying to have them involved. If you've got a place close, video game stores are great as well. There's lots of different, businesses that could be involved and would be interested in being involved and would probably have no idea that you're doing that and would be interested. In terms of promotions, I think, I've talked to like Joker's Child, all those different ones. They've all told me like, we're more than happy to put your flyers up like months in advance, right? So, send it out beyond your town, right? Because why not get the buzz going, to really get the word out there. I know we've posted, and I think Marissa's posted too on fancons.com is one that you can help to promote your Comic Cons and things like that. We have tried to do, do different, we try to keep it different each year. Oh, so the website is fans, plural, fancons, fancons.com. So that one's a good one for just listing purposes. And of course, we'll do all of our normal promotions and things like that. Thank you. We've invited the newspaper each time, and each time they have come, and I mean like the Bergen Record and the Star Ledger have come and done stories on them. So you can find like video of Lizzie and me actually dressed as Doc and Marty from our first con here. I think it was Star Ledger. So like you may get press interest in that, and that will help it grow for the next time you try to do it. For me, the biggest trick is always finding the artists and people you want to come. And the best I can say there, I mean, Marissa has definitely done more work on this than I have. But we keep a spreadsheet of everybody that we interact with. I try to focus in on people that might live in New Jersey or around the area who would be easier for you to get than someone who's farther away, going to cost a lot of money. So we have like a list of people that we are always growing, that we can potentially call on to participate in our artist alley or in giving a presentation or however they want to participate. And that's another piece you'll have to talk about, whether the artist can sell things at your library. Again, I was able to allow it so that they could sell things at the library as part of the con, which is really a big selling point for them. But you will need to check at your home library's, rules for that kind of thing. And the Kubert School did work for me. I'm sorry, it didn't work for Lizzie. But they sent a couple of their students and it was great. They had and they were really interested in attending. 3 students came and they had really interesting art and they were just super happy to be there and have a presence there. Okay, so I've been doing mine in April, a couple of weeks before Free Comic Book Days to capitalize on that. That's interesting. So yeah, scheduling it around when to schedule it is interesting too. I'm sure Lizzie and Marissa have some thoughts there.
Well, yeah, I was responding to a question. That was me.
Oh, that was you. There you go. But I wouldn't put it on Free Comic Book Day. I would never do that, nor would I put it on, obviously, comic book or Comic-Con or the big, there's the Garden State Comic Book Festival, I think, and then there's a few others. So you would want to check to make sure you're not overlapping with those, I would think, for the most part. Wouldn't you say, Lizzie?
Scheduling, we've tried a couple of different times a year. The very first ones that Matt and I ran together, I don't know why we thought this was a good idea, but we held them in November, almost immediately after our massive Halloween party. Our Halloween party would pull in 400 people, and 3 weeks later, we were trying to get this con off the ground. It was not healthy for anybody involved. In the intervening years, as I was just typing in the chat, I've moved to the spring. I do have a comic book shop in Lake Hiawatha, and in order to sort of make this mutually beneficial, he's able to have a presence at my con if I do it a few weeks ahead of time, and then I'm able to sort of send traffic his way for that first weekend in May for Free Comic Book Day. So that happens to work for us based on our big program schedule. I've got Halloween in fall and summer reading, obviously, we're trying to avoid. And, the spring seems really ripe for this kind of thing in my library, in my community.
I also recommend too, if you're doing a big event, let your township know so there's not competing events going on at the same time. And if you know your date early, get it out there. As soon as I know my date, I ask my director to email it out to the mayor, save the date, save the date. For us, we do it in the summer because we're fortunate enough to use the community center, which is next door, which looks like a community center. They're closed Saturdays in the summer, and through our partnership, we were able to take over the whole thing. But it's not something we could do during the school year because of basketball and all of that. Other libraries I went to, everybody was gone in the summer. It was that type of community where people left, and that didn't work. Another library, we closed early on Saturdays and I didn't get permission to stay open later. So we had to do it before the summer. So knowing your library, knowing your space, what works for you, that'll help you pick your date. And if you feel like it's not working, it's okay to move it too. And I really believe, like, if you build this event, people will come. Building on from what Matt said, like, advertise all over. We would get people from all over different states, and that's a great way to pitch it to your stakeholders. As you're bringing in new people to your community, they may spend money going out to dinner, out to lunch in the area, put out a list of all the great places to eat, and have them get community involvement that way. I also wanted to mention, I forgot before, freebies. So Diamond Comics for Free Comic Book Day. I've had success, not this year, but in the past with Viz, which does a lot of manga publishing and anime. A couple of years, they sent me a giant box of manga for my collection and anime DVDs to give away. I got lucky with Funimation one year, so definitely send those emails out, and you might get lucky with free goodies that you can bring out. Stephanie said, yeah, you had success with Viz as well. And your local comic book stores, we got a big box of free posters and freebies that was really nice to hang up and use for prizes as well. And if you have an artist alley and they're coming, you can ask them to donate a prize for your costume, for your cosplay contest. I've done that in the past as well.
Just to follow on that, excuse me, I think all of that is right on for sure. And I think I've tried a couple of things, like we've gotten freebies from the comic book store when it was still there, but also from the first time we ran it, we had local restaurants participate, and actually there was like a whole food area. We had a local cupcake place that was able to do like printed cupcake things with like superhero emblems and things on them, and it was really neat. And they got to participate. Again, I was able to have them sell as part of the event too, which is not always, I've being director helps. It's good to be the king. That's a joke. But I was able to get them, that was a good participation thing for the community. And then you get cross promotion because they want people to show up too. They get it, more people involved. I've had luck with the local schools to have like some of the student artists present and do like in a gallery of their art at our Comic-Con as well. Brings the families in, brings the kids in, gets the schools involved. I think that's been mentioned too, but I wanted to just say that we had really good success with that. And the last thing I'll mention is I forgot Lizzie's done this too, I think, and probably Marissa, we've a Pokemon Go like meetup.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So that was, you know what? I couldn't remember what my third scheduled event was this past year. That was the biggest one. It was part craft event. We did little Pokeball bead buddies. It was part Pokemon Go. We break out our button maker for literally everything, and people can't seem to get enough. So we did team badges for all of the Pokemon Go teams. And then it was just an opportunity for people to trade Pokemon, battle. Our library happens to be a gym. So there was a lot of just free exchange of Pokemon Go activity, which was really nice to see. And not just kids. Kids don't necessarily aren't even ones with the phones. So older people who, maybe after the 6 or 7 years that Pokemon Go has been out are still playing. They were there and just excited to see other people who are also still playing.
Exactly.
And just real quick, I want to throw in a word about the fact that it's lovely to talk about things when they work well, but they don't always work well. And I learned that really hard at my past con. I made reference before to trying to have an Ecto-1 car outside. And it was largely my fault. I didn't really hammer out the details with the guy who owned the car. It wasn't until the day before when he reached out and said, oh, well, if it's raining, I can't come out. The car doesn't travel in the rain. Okay, well, that's interesting. I would have advertised a little differently had we talked about that earlier. Also in my community, I use the term cosplay, but I don't know that my patrons knew what that term meant. So we only had a couple of kids show up ready for the cosplay contest, and they were my own. And so suddenly we had to pivot real quick to superhero trivia. It worked out well enough, but as with anything, it may not go smoothly. It may not go smoothly the first time, it may not go smoothly the second time. But I don't know, I guess I'd just say keep trying. And I'd done a number of cons successfully in the past, but this one, it tripped me up. So, it was a new location, it was some new vendors, it was a whole host of things. So, yeah, keep that in mind.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a good point. Like, and we've tried. I had the same Ecto one who was supposed to show up at my con too, and then the car broke down, so that he couldn't come to that one. And then I think maybe the first one we did together, we tried a costume contest for adults,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that failed miserably. The
Oh.
kids one was great. The
Yeah.
adult one, there was one person,
Yeah.
and so she won. Great job. So, you try different things and see what works. And it's going to be your community may have, maybe they're more interested in anime and manga or they're interested in cosplay or they're interested in comics or pop culture or whatever. You need to, you'll have to go along and figure it out as you go through things, and don't be afraid to try things and have them fail. Um, that's most of library, I think, though, library programs.
Everyone's having fun. So, any negative feedback, even though I did hear a lot of "where's the car?" But well, okay, the car's not here. It's raining. Sorry, guys. They just moved on to something else. So
And one of the great things about these events is bringing the fans together and just seeing people be excited. And it's fun to have all the programs. Like, that's always my favorite part. But at the end of the day, it's about the fans coming together. And if like half of your programs didn't work, they're going to find their own thing. Like, I remember one year I did something, and it was my first year working with teen volunteers, and they were planning an hour presentation, and I never checked in on them on how it was going. And they planned 5 minutes worth of content, and that was it. And then people just started doing their own thing. People whipped out their Yu-Gi-Oh cards and their Pokemon cards. And I remember New York Comic Con once, we were waiting for something that wasn't happening, and everyone started playing Duck Duck Goose. People will bring their own fun once they're there. So just having that space for them, putting in the work, having backups to the best of your ability if something goes wrong, and then just letting it go the day of. Like, I always feel like you put all your work into it, you have everyone there, and then it's just free and into the world. And whatever happens that day, always have someone around to help. But people are going to have so much fun. And like, the people who come in are always so kind and so polite. I know I've gotten questions in the past, like, we've had 200 people, we've had like 500 people, and people like, oh my God, that's a lot of people. But everyone is so kind, and people are just grateful that you're putting on this event. Seeing people in costume, wow, you like this too. I didn't know my library would do this sort of thing. So just the rewarding aspects. And like Lizzie said, having your backups and being able to think on your feet, and then just, having fun and letting letting the event happen, and learn from next year is definitely a piece of advice.
All right. I think that's most of what I had on my list.
yeah,
Other
I'm
than
fresh out of notes.
like the other nights, like it's just gathering decorations. We do a lot of decorating in my library. So over years, we'll build decorations that we can reuse. We built a runway. I think Marissa kind of said similar we did it for our costume contest. We had like a big arch and a red carpet. So we had that whole thing so the kids could have fun with that. And we always do book displays, of course, and just every display in the building will be centered around the Comic-Con, right? Either if it's anime or, just Marvel or whatever it is. And I have a lot of cardboard cutouts, like stand up people. They work out well. So
Yeah, stolen some of mine.
I don't have any here right now.
Yeah, that Captain Picard, not yours.
Captain Picard is mine.
Oh, that's cool. The cutouts are great because, like, some places I've worked at, they're very picky about putting things on the wall. So, like, where I am now, like, you couldn't really put tape up. But in other places, we went crazy with, like, taping up posters and stuff like that. So, kind of being creative on what you can do. We had the kids make a poster this year. One of my colleagues, her partner is an artist, and drew like an outline. And then the day before, we had the kids like color it in with the characters. But the cutouts are so much fun.
Didn't have an artist, but I did throw together a poster in Canva, just black and white outlines of, Pokemon and comic book characters and things from all over pop culture. And I happen to have access to a large format printer through my library. I've borrowed other libraries' large format printers in the past. But just printing out a giant coloring page and hanging it on the wall is another fairly inexpensive passive thing you can have going on all day. And at the end, you have an interesting piece of community art.
If you have any, go ahead, Matt.
I was just gonna say for our Boo Bash, our Halloween thing, we're experimenting with using our new large format printer to create cardboard cutouts essentially. So we printing them on like big paper, and then we're gonna try to adhere them to cardboard and kind of make it ourselves. So I don't know about, rights usage and such, but we're just doing it for decorations. We're not giving it away or anything. So I think it's fine.
Yeah, I felt totally comfortable throwing a couple of Pokemon on my poster. It wasn't going anywhere other than the library wall, so.
If
Yeah.
you space, we did one year post-it art, like the pixelated post-it art, and we made Mario.
To do.
We had the team help with that ahead of time, and it's really cute looking. It takes a lot of time, but it's a fun decoration.
That does remind me, though, because this came up in the last chat we did, the term Comic-Con is trademarked.
Oh, yes.
So you don't call your thing Comic-Con because that won't work. You got to call it something else.
Yeah, thanks for that, Matt. I meant to mention that too. So yeah, that is an important thing to note. Yeah. And I do see someone's hand raised. So is that Wyland? Do you want to unmute yourself or put a comment in the chat? We're happy to hear from you or for anyone. If they have any suggestions, comments, questions.
No, I have questions. A couple questions. I came in a little late, like 5 minutes in, but I was just wondering, for someone who isn't fully in the Comic-Con, I actually went to Comic-Con for the first time on Sunday. But I'm more of a board game person, and I've been tasked to kind of really bring out more board games. But there is a lot of intersectionality with people who do, comics and stuff like that. And so Princeton does a big children's book festival. It happens to be on the same weekend as Collingwood. I didn't realize, so if you're South Jersey, you might know Collingwood. But anyway, and so it was very fun for me to go to like the artist block at Comic-Con New York, because that's kind of where my comfort zone is. The rest of the show floor was very overwhelming. But anyway, and I've done PAX, PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia. That's more board game. So I'm trying to do a small idea of a comic. I mean, like a con of some kind, and that's part of the reason I joined in on this. But I think here's a couple questions. I'm sorry, and this is for everyone who had experience. Was how do you identify groups? And like you've mentioned, like if you have like a local store that does comic books, we have a toy store that's really popular. A little bit further out, we have a toy store, game store, and I know that there's a comic book store. They're not in our same town, but they're around near us, and I'm sure that they might want to do something to promote. And I love the boba idea of like having restaurants nearby, because we do actually have a lot of boba shops in Princeton. So anyway, I was just wondering, how do you get the word out, especially if you don't always have a foot in that community, and also to expand, into maybe other areas. You guys mentioned Pokemon, and other stuff, and the cosplay, and like just what are the kind of like out of the box, and what hasn't worked for you guys. I would love to hear that all. So I'm sorry, that was my question, very long-winded.
Going back just a little bit, you could absolutely pivot this into a gaming convention. They used to have one in the Meadowlands every year. It was very, very cool. And you could either do free play board gaming, whatever you were interested, just grab your buddies and go, or they had scheduled games with, people who are familiar with those particular games to help new players learn, for things like, Werewolf or One Night Ultimate Werewolf, you need a moderator. But that is absolutely one avenue you could take just because you're already sort of familiar with it. And I personally find that when I have a passion for something, I do it better than when I don't have a passion or, maybe as much knowledge as I'd like. But then I think maybe you also answered part of your own question. How do you break into some of these other groups? You advertise at those stores that are in your area. Put up a flyer, speak to the owners. Sometimes they'll have, groups that will meet, either, play tabletop gaming or, comic book clubs or what have you. And those are places that you can start that might have ready-made audiences. And then I don't know what you're already doing in your library, but you know, I'm a youth services person. So I catch a lot of my kids when I notice they're already doing the things that I want them to do. Oh, you're here looking for X, Y, and Z comics? Yes, I have an event for you. Let's talk about this thing. And word of mouth is so powerful. Like it cannot be understated. Whether that's with the kids or the parents, getting into the schools, kind of like we do for summer reading, whether that's through a flyer or through a visit. And again, once the word gets out there, it will tend to spread to a point on its own very naturally. I know there are other, I kind of just jumped in on that. Take a step back now. Any other thoughts?
I mean, I'll just throw in, you've pretty much covered most of it. I mean, we actually happened to had exactly like you were saying, we had a kid who was interested in Pokemon, and we were, you know, new team person was, my new team librarian was talking to them, and what came out of that was that he wanted to start a Pokemon club at the library, and we now have a Pokemon club, and there's a dozen tweens in it, which is like the tweens and teens are like really hard, as we all know, to try to get in the library. So you never know how that's going to work out, and just talking to your patrons is big. Beyond all the other things that Lizzie mentioned, you know, that's your businesses and other things, student groups in your schools, if there's anything that relates, you know, talking to them and working with them. We even had a little luck on using Meetup just to discover local groups that were meeting. Like if there was an adult gaming club, we discovered that there was one in our town of like 12 people on Meetup. So we've had some good experience with using Meetup to try to, you know, as be after all those other things as just an extra thing to try to find things. I'm sure Marissa has some thoughts too.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what everyone was saying. And at the end of the day, your convention is either going to reflect you and your staff who are building it or what your community is bringing. And it sounds like you're already bringing a lot of expertise in gaming. So if you start there, and you might have other people come and say, oh, you know, I like anime or I like comics. Can I help and be involved that way? Like anime is my thing. So my very first con was literally just an anime con because that's how we got started. And as I worked with more staff and more people, it kind of grew to different things, comics, and like I mentioned, horror, which I never would have done had I not had a coworker who had expertise. And just having people then come in and say, oh, I bring this. And gaming is so popular. You have the university, of course, in Princeton, working with them and seeing if they have a group where people who want to be involved and connecting that way. And
just looked up the Princeton University Anime and Manga Club. If I were you, Eileen, I'd start there. I'm sure that's an amazing resource. And, you know, I spent many more years beyond my college experience hanging out with my college anime club than was probably healthy. So that is a passionate group of people.
And they're probably interested in volunteering potentially with their local library community. If you have a graphic novel collection, put little flyers or bookmarks in them like, hey, we're trying to build this. Do you want to help? People, I always believe like if you build it, they will come. Like people will find out about it. It may take time. Like as many years as I've done it at single libraries, there's always someone who says, I didn't know you did that. But people will find out about it the more you do it. And let us share, you know, if you're doing an event, like I have a ToshoCon page I created, I'd love to share your event and vice versa. Let us help get the word out for you.
And I guess, what other, I mean, I'm actually thinking about doing a miniature painting event because luckily someone volunteered and I was like, I might take you up on this, you know, like for miniatures. And he wanted to teach it. And I was like, sure, you know, things like that. But I mean, what else have you guys done in terms of maybe like workshops, like maybe something that kind of like can work in between a con as well, to kind of support that community? And especially when I think our programming library in particular, I think is more targeting, I would say late 20, like college graduates, 30s and 40-year-olds, non-parents, you know, because the children's floor is not having a problem getting people in. I think it's just that age group among adults. So
Well, I just thinking about that age group. It was a long time ago now, but I did present. My first NJLA presentation was programming for 20 and 30-year-olds, and that was like 15 years ago. So it's really relevant now. No, but I'm thinking for that group, like I've tried to do like off-site things, like maybe at bars and restaurants. I've done. I'm going to do trivias off premise soon, which trivias have been super popular. Um, Mine seems to be getting taken over by my family trivia nights. Um, they're like totally outstripping the ones I do for adults, but for a long time, the adult trivia ones were really popular. Lizzie was doing those with me as well, and we put those together. So maybe going to where they are, especially if you have a parking problem or like a access issue, see about other locations in your town that, could host something, be interested in partnering, go where they are, that might be something. I don't know if either of you have thoughts. Yeah, also, I mean, I think Hackensack, I think there was a Hackensack person here. Kathy's here. They do offsite trivia and have for several years, and it's worked great.
Their costume contest at their trivia once.
What you did there.
Yeah. Oh, I don't just host events, I attend them as well.
Mhm.
Well, and for Leone, we used to do tons of trivia, and we'd have people from other libraries coming to that trivia all the time. So, but going off site, especially if you're, and I know Marissa, you do your Comic-Con or your ToshaCon not at your library, off site, right? In the community center.
Yeah, it's attached, so it's like kind of offsite. We do all of our adult programs there, so at least people in the community, because we don't have any programming space except for one room in the children's room. So technically offsite.
Okay, yeah. But it might, it is a community center. So like we have like a community center in my town that is not connected to our building, but we are using it for a couple of things. We have a big HVAC renovation coming up. So we're not going to be able to use our own space. So they're hosting a couple of things for us, including our Lunar New Year program, which usually has like 200 or 300 people attending. So try those things. Pub
I know
since
for us, because I'm the head of reference and adult programming. We do 2 in-person craft programs, and that attracts like a wide range from like 20s to like 70 plus. So people are really into crafting right now, and you could tie it into like nerdy crafts. Like if you Google like all, I don't know, wine glass painting, but like have tutorials for making like comic characters or something like that, tying it in that way. Whatever's already big, like having it a twist if you're trying to do like the fandom element might be worth trying.
Yeah, thinking about it, when I was at Hoboken, there were so many opportunities. There was lots of great businesses that all had different things, florists, baker, and things like that. I would get them to do programs, intro to baking, intro to this. So that's a great idea. Like, use those specific places and try to do something that's specific to that business you're working with, which might also tie in. Like I was in cooking classes and I have the Star Trek cookbook at home, or Star Trek themed drinks. I've never done that. We've never done that. Right, Lizzie?
No, never. If anyone needs
Never made
Romulan ale, though, I might know a person.
Oh, and thank you, Kathy. She said, yeah, pub trivia hasn't been happening since the pandemic, but they're looking forward to getting it back off the ground soon. Cool. Other question? Oh, so I see a social media platform that worked best for each of you.
I still mostly use Facebook and Instagram. We've really fallen away from Twitter. Again, I'm mostly with the slightly younger set, so I haven't really gotten into TikTok. But we actually just launched a separate youth services Facebook and Instagram at Parsippany. So we're trying to get that off the ground, kind of cross-posting everything at the moment until we have a better following. But that seems to be where the parents are, and that is where I'm for most of my programs. That's still who I'm targeting. It might be slightly different for you if you are looking to target adults or a slightly older crowd.
Our teen library runs our TikTok, so like the week leading up to ToshaCon, we made some fun like TikToks, like transforming into cosplay and stuff. But typically Facebook and Instagram is the most active for us.
Yeah, it's the same for me as well. We do have a active TikTok. I never quite know who's being reached or if it's being effective. We get views, but it's all over the place. But it's Instagram and Facebook, and we will do a paid boost generally, and we'll do like we might do 2 boosts, and like one will be targeted for like, you know, the interests in a certain geographic area, and then one will just be geographic area, like a blanket everybody. So we may do 2 paid posts leading up to some of our big events. But I think promoting it with the comic book stores is really like that's where you want to go, and they're usually very receptive to that. FYI, for whoever asked about the 20 and 30s age group, I find our students are much more active on Discord than Instagram, Facebook, and other social media. That is, yeah, I mean, and that ties into gaming cultures and other groups. Obviously, that's where Discord really came, brought a lot from. So I've not done a ton with Discord in terms of library promotions. I'm not sure if either of you have.
Our teen
But-
librarian Discord, I'm not sure how active it is, but I know she does promote and has one for the library.
We are about to start one, but it's my teen librarian who's going to be doing it, so I can't speak to any expertise on that. But that is an interesting format for sure. That could be a good place to try.
And there are a lot of like library, like pop culture Facebook groups and interest groups. So definitely promoting on those. Usually it's not too hard to join and just share your flyers.
Exactly. There's tons of those places. And you can try and do like there's other, New Jersey event listing, weekend listing websites, NJ.com. Those are kind of hit and miss, but some of them you can post for free. So, if you can post for free, you might as well post it and, maybe you'll get seen. So that's just kind of like, who knows what you're going to get out of that one though. Let's see. Cherry Hill is an active Discord as well. That makes sense for Cherry Hill.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
Cherry Hill people. Laverne. No, I'm kidding. I love Cherry Hill.
Laverne.
They're always doing cool things. Cherry Hill's a good place to look at for fun
speaking
ideas.
of 501st Legion, I mean, she's like
Yeah.
the queen.
I mean, Laverne is like the 501st Legion. So there you go. But
All the way out to my first East Orange Con. Like we're talking South Jersey all the way up to East Orange. Like they do very, very good work with that. And the Lightsaber Guild also, I think, is a charity-based free one. I have some friends on Long Island who are active with them as well.
that's right. I forgot about that one. I was gonna shout out to as well. There's a librarian who is trying to do some things with like gaming and Dungeons and Dragons and things. Hannah, she just moved back to South Jersey. So I'm not able to hire her all the way in Ramsey, but I would hire her if you're interested in gaming. She's got all that stuff and like does big costumes for Comic-Con and other things. She might be a good person to bring in.
Yeah, definitely reach out to the library community. Everyone on here is interested in comics. Like I remember going to a couple of my friends' library cons over the years, like to run a candy sushi program, and I did it for free. Like they provided the candy and then they took me out to lunch or something, and then they returned the favor and came and helped out. So like reach out to your friends here and see who's gonna come help you.
Crossed paths at a third library con years and years ago. So Matt and I were there with our friend who happens to have DeLorean, and you were there, Marissa, doing candy sushi for Megan.
Yeah.
So like, there's a lot of syncretism here. We can all work together.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. What is candy sushi?
Oh.
Oh,
There's-
okay. So it's one. So you're using candy to make replica sushi. So it's like Rice Krispie treats as the base, Swedish fish for the fish. You can use fruit roll-ups or fruit by the foot. I've done soy sauce with chocolate sauce, just an assortment of goodies, and you create it on your plate to look like actual sushi. It's so much fun. My very first library that I did it at, our teen librarian was very like hygienic. This was like back in 2010, and like we had to convince her that we would like have all the kids wash their hands and everything, and it worked out perfect. You could do it buffet style where everyone picks up their stuff and sits down. You can give it out. I've done it where we play anime music in the background. It's so much fun. It was one of our most popular events at ToshoCon this year. And like, that was what people were commenting on Facebook. When are you doing candy sushi again? When are you doing candy sushi again?
And someone was asking about in between kind of programs, workshops. I mean, this would be, you could even take that out of the con and use that as a lead up event
Mm-hmm.
to get people in. I have never done candy sushi at a con, but I have done it as a standalone program many, many moons ago. And anyone who's showing up for candy sushi is also probably interested in your con, so market to them.
And other things like in between programs, I mean, we'll do regular video game sessions, monthly video game times. We've done animation classes where we've like a 4-part how to do animation, drawing manga, different, artistry type classes, all that kind of stuff will tie in. I have been trying to do a monthly gaming thing, but I think I made it too broad. I said families and everyone. And so like I'll get like, each time I'll get like the 2 adults are like, you're the one I want to come here. You're like the gamer. And like, they never come at the same time. So, it takes time. But these are some of the other things you could definitely do. There's so much you could do. Do a costume contest. Costume contest in July. Why not? Every month, really.
You could, yeah.
Say, if you look at our house, you would assume it is every month.
If you look at our house, it's basically every month. So
We live in a spirit of Halloween, guys. I'm sorry.
if
No,
you
like
went to the last
costumes.
one, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say costumes in summer is so fun. So why not?
Well, and I think that could actually be really fun. Like, it's not expected at all. You're way past like Halloween or other things. Like, it's just out of the blue. Kids would love just like, I get to dress up as July and it's really hot and I'm sweaty, but who cares?
You can do Christmas in July. Can you do Halloween in April? Halfway
Like it.
Sure. Well, I was thinking about,
Candy or something. I don't know.
well, up here, I was thinking about at some point doing, and I think this just speaks to just different ways you could do things. Like, it doesn't have to be a traditional Comic-Con. Like, I was thinking to do it, maybe mix in some Renaissance Fair type things. I'm pretty close to the New York Ren Fair, so maybe I can make something happen with some of the people there. So that's something in my, in my Mario brain is Ren Fair. So
You do like a cosplayers convention, and then you can get cosplayers and fandoms from all over. Get the historic reenactors in there with the Trekkies in there with the anime people.
I mean, that would be epic if you put it all together,
Yeah.
right? I like this. You have a Civil War person sparring off against a stormtrooper, and
It's
which
cool.
one will be the more inaccurate in their shooting?
Conventions, guys.
Different ways you could do it. And like, I think that's the point. Like, you could make it however you want and it's going to be fun. And you can just keep tweaking it until you find something that sticks, or just try all different things. Renaissance Fair and Comic-Con, there's no wrong way to do it. Or
Exactly. Well, I don't want any more. Are there other questions?
Yeah, it seems like people need to get back to their desks. We're dropping here.
Yeah. I guess people need to like do library work.
and if you are going to do a con,
Yeah.
like, so we can advertise it and we could come. Like, we want to hear about what you're doing, so definitely reach out to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
And if we could, we have decorations, we have other things. We'd be more than happy to, offer whatever we can to help you out. So.
No, yeah, that's awesome, Matt and Lizzie and Marissa. Thank you for doing that too. And yeah, for anyone here, please let us know if you have a con. We'd be happy to I want to stop by. So please let us know. We'd be happy to help and share any ideas or feedback. And thank you all for being here too. This is such a fun conversation. I loved all of the ideas. I love our costumes. So yeah, it was great. So yeah,
Thanks
again, you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Stephanie, for hosting.
Yes.
Yeah, no
Yes, thank
problem.